Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch Want, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Compressor Diving Chronograph, 44mm in brushed titanium. This Jaeger-LeCoultre is, like all of the watches featured on our YouTube channel, actual inventory in stock and available for immediate purchase and delivery on our retail website, watchyouwant.com. And if you like getting the latest news, views, and reviews in video format on a daily basis, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now, JLC had a great sports watch tradition from the 1950s through the mid-1970s with the Deep Sea Memovox, with the Polaris, with the Polaris II, the Master Mariners. They were among the leaders in manufactured sports watch construction. But from the late 70s till the early 2000s, they had nothing. So they had to reinvent the type, and they came back with a flourish, including the Master Compressor Diving line of the mid-decade to the present. Now you can see on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This 44mm watch has real presence, but it's not oppressive. Now the lugs are nice and short, and you can see this shot shows to good advantage that the lugs really don't overhang the edge of my wrist. The look is big, but the proportions are just right to wear comfortably. Now it sits about 16.5mm tall on the table, but on the wrist, because it does have a bit of a cupped, rounded case back, it nestles in and it actually reads a little bit shorter than 16.5. Also, because the bezel is sloped, you've got a better than average chance of getting this watch to play well with a tight cuff or sleeve. Now the other nice thing about it, and one of the ergonomic secrets to success, is that this watch is entirely titanium. If you're not familiar with the feel of a titanium watch, it's a real treat, because while this watch reads as large as something truly immense, like a Rolex Deep Sea Sea Dweller, the titanium construction, bracelet clasp, case, bezel, the entirety, means it's exceptionally light, really deceptively light, and wonderfully wieldy. It feels like a 40mm steel watch on the wrist, maybe even a little bit lighter. The other key to the success of this watch from an ergonomic standpoint is a superb vulcanized rubber-coated, really vulcanized rubber-wrapped titanium bracelet. You get the beautiful chromatic contrast of a classic dive watch with the white or light-colored metal set against the black. Traditionally, on an old dive watch, it would be a tropical-style strap or a black textile, but here you get that contrast, but you get the security and the quality and the longevity of a metal bracelet. Now, this watch was part of the class of 2006 from JLC's model line, so you can see we've had experience with these watches over the better part of a decade, and the rubber vulcanization holds up beautifully over time. This one reads as new in the hand. Another advantage from a practical standpoint is you'll see each one of these individual links features screw retention, so the watch is almost infinitely sizable. It's not completely infinite, but it's broadly sizable to the point that I would say almost anyone, no matter how idiosyncratic the fit, is going to be able to get a secure closure and fit using this system. And it's true of both sides for maximum flexibility. The feel of rubber against the wrist really deserves a shout out, because as supple as a nicely finished metal can be, you just can't match the soft, tactile pleasure of rubber, and you get that here, but you also get the security of metal links. Nice peace of mind when you have a high horology watch on your wrist over the briny deep. But JLC gives you an extra measure of security in this fantastic double deployant quadruple trigger clasp. So what does that mean, double deployant quadruple trigger? Well, it means that you have a twin swing arm deployant. That's ideal because the single swing arms can sometimes dig into the wrist and make sizing more difficult on a smaller wrist. If the fit is tighter, a single swing arm can be a little inconvenient. Double deployant makes it much easier to close one side and then close the other in 2 steps. Great for fit, also outstanding in as much as you have the twin trigger release system in duplicate. So you can't release this watch by simply pressing one of the triggers. You have to press all 4 at once to completely release the clasp to the utmost in security. Beautiful finishing going on in here too. You'll see that the interior arms of the clasp are individually beveled, and that nothing here is raw stamped or cut metal. Everything either has a brushed, polished, or matte finish, and again, the beautiful beveling of the clasp just speaks to the attention to detail that you get from a true manufacturer. JLC makes the clasp, makes the bracelet, makes the bezel, the case, and the movement, and of course they have their own art design team, so they even design the look of the watch. I would expect no less from the great house of Le Sentier. But it is the case, the bezel, the quality of the movement and the dial that defines a dive watch, and JLC does not disappoint. Now you'll see that the look is brushed, a subdued look, a look that lends itself to a low profile underwater where, quite honestly, reflective objects can attract sharks. Well, JLC's got your back, because this is a subdued look that looks fine, looks sharp, looks upscale, but it's not going to attract toothy visitors. Now there is just a little bit of polishing for artistic purposes. You can see the hand beveling of the flanks of the lugs, as well as the individual knurled teeth of the bezel do feature polish just to break up the monotone look. The contrast is much appreciated, subtle, but has great visual impact in person. Now the bezel is a very satisfying piece. You can hear the click of the detent, and it's as crisp in the hand as it is to the ear. Now each portion of this bezel in 5-minute increments features a raised metallic portion. That's part of the engraving and casting of the bezel. It's actually been cast that way and then machined out and hand finished for sharp definition, so you can really feel where those grip points are, and you can easily use this bezel in the dark, or if you must, you can find the reference point, the triangular index at 12, and by tactile feel alone, you can track the time, or you can track the station of the bezel relative to the indices. Now the nice thing about the watch though is that you'll never be left in the dark with this much lume. Gorgeous, abundantly loomed trapeze hands, individual white gold applied and loomed indices and numerals. This watch glows like a torch at night, and I'm going to do my best to give you an impression of that. Stand by while I charge this up and kill the lights. Alright, like I said, now I can still feel this bezel, so I have all my reference points, but really, who needs them? With this much lume, you can rival any Panerai, you can rival any Luminox for that matter. JLC has your back, and you can see that even the constant seconds indicator at 6 o'clock, that bicolored blue and white element that's designed to show you the watch is operating even when the chronograph is inactive, even that's loomed at 6 o'clock, so the watch has a lot of character. Even though it meets all of the ISO 6425 statutory guidelines defining a dive watch, it nevertheless manages to be individualistic and distinctive, even with the lights out. Now, the lights are going to come back on. And the other elements of the dial are classic dive watch done JLC style. You have a pulsation scale on the chapter ring. So essentially what you do is you reset the chronograph to the index at 12. You take your pulse, you start the chronograph, you count 30 pulsations, and then you stop the chronograph. So for instance, wherever the hand stops, you simply read directly across from it, and that is your instant pulse rate. So you know, as a diver, as your heart rate starts to rise, it means your body's fighting for oxygen. It's time to come up. Other elements include a matte finish dial. Just as the case isn't reflective, neither is the dial. It's a beautiful matte finish, black for fantastic contrast. You have your chronograph minute and hour registers, the constant seconds or operation indicator, so you know your watch is never dead before you dive, and then a discrete date window right here at 4:30. Everything you need, nothing you don't, quite a bit of eye candy for those of you who like to bring a loupe, and of course, beautifully loomed. Now inside, the watch features, as the case back declares, a JLC in-house caliber 751D that has been subjected to the 1,000 hours control. What that is a fully cased up test of the precision, the water resistance, the shock resistance, the power reserve. Everything that is advertised with the watch is tested empirically before the watch leaves the factory. It's also tested to an in-house standard of chronometry that exceeds the COSC by a significant margin. Again, COSC is approximately a 2-week test, while the Master 1,000 hours control continues for over 40 days. And again, because COSC tests an uncased movement, and the 1,000 hours control tests the movement cased, not just cased, but tests the water resistance of the case itself, you're getting a much more thoroughly vetted, intense quality control process and a better product as a result. It's a distinctive feature of JLC watches, all of them except the caliber 101 micro caliber, and it has been since 2004. But the specifics of the movement include hacking seconds, a vertical clutch, column wheel chronograph for that sharp tactile sensation of a precise actuation, stop, and reset, as well as the jump-free, stagger-free, precision reset that comes with a vertical clutch. And as I like to mention with vertical clutch chronographs, you can see it as an instant jumping minute indicator, by the way. With a vertical clutch chronograph, you have the ability to run the center seconds to no hazard to the movement. There isn't a separate drivetrain driving the seconds. You can just keep it going if you like to have hours, minutes, and seconds radially displayed from center. 65-hour power reserve, unidirectional winding, very efficient, more efficient still thanks to unlubricated ceramic ball bearings. The watch also features an outstanding free-sprung balance for even more shock resistance than, quite frankly, most of the sports watches available in the modern marketplace, and just as much durability as the rugged aesthetic of the watch seems to promise. Want more? Well, that hairspring on the free-sprung balance is manufactured to JLC's own design by Lange of Saxony. Yes, that Lange. And it's laser welded at the stud and the collet, so even the spring itself, relative to the balance, can't shift its orientation under shock. This is one tough watch. It lives up to the promise that its rugged good looks make, and it runs just as well as its manufacturer provenance and the Jaeger-LeCoultre marquee name would suggest. And you can see it in high-resolution images on our website, watchyouwant.com.